We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Show Must Go On. Line. Today's guest is Lacretta. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. And I'm happy to have my co-host Limbo right here.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, he just went to the vet this morning, so he's feeling a little, but he's so
Oh,
much better. He's so much better.
bless
And
his heart.
I love this little pupper. So it's very nice to have him just chilling on the couch with us. Are you a pet person?
I am. I am. I'm drooling all over him. He's so handsome. I am definitely a cat person, but like a cat, the kind of cat person whose cat plays fetch would be very cool. So I'm kind of obsessed with cats who can't. I don't know that they should be doing that, but I love those clips on YouTube.
I love this. Yeah, I'm liking the intersectionality of the cat and the dog there.
Yes.
So yeah, just fair warning, if he starts barking, sometimes he does that, like, hey, we're all reporting live from our homes. That's like
Exactly. Yes. I accept it all.
excellent, excellent. So, I like to just start at the very beginning, a very good place to start. And what's your origin story? How'd you get into theater? And tell us
Mhm.
everything.
Oh my goodness. So I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I got my start in theater actually by way of playwriting. I was a part of the Playwrights Roundtable in Kansas City. And I don't even remember much of what I wrote personally, but we would read each other's writing so that the playwright could hear what they had put on the page.
Mhm.
And over the course of reading other members' plays, the facilitator was like, gosh, I really think that you should audition for the Coterie Theater, which is an awesome children's theater in Kansas City. And I was like, I wasn't expecting to go in that direction. I was like, no, I'm just going to write and, try to make it. And I didn't even know what all that entailed, but I thought that that's what I needed to be doing. And I went and auditioned. And then, gosh, I did maybe 5 or 6 shows with them. Even after I graduated high school and went off to college, I still was doing shows with them over the summer. And then I figured, well, let me just go ahead and study. I actually was planning on being either a cardiac surgeon or a neurosurgeon.
What?
And then oh yeah, I was totally into medical everything. And that's why I took Latin in high school because I was like, all these terms are Latin words, so let me just go ahead. It made total sense at the time, and take Latin as my language. And then someone reminded me that I would have to cut on cadavers. And I don't do well with dead things. I like anything bigger than a fish. I am not about. So that then I kind of started looking in a different direction and was going to go into social work because my mother worked labor and delivery, and I wanted to be a neonatal social worker to be the liaison between families and doctors because that's such a heightened time in people's lives, and it's nice to have someone who just talks in lay terms to you when doctors are saying all these big terms that you might not understand, and also sometimes the babies are not, they're in distress. And so someone to just kind of calm you down. And so as I was taking my classes in social work, a teacher said, well, you can get your master's in social work regardless of what your bachelor's is in. And I was like, oh, well, if that's the case, then let me go ahead and do music and theater and just get that out of the way. And then I can go back and get my master's in social work. And that didn't happen. There's still potential for that to happen, but I ended up graduating with my bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies. That's a big word to say, double major. But I majored in education, minored in education, majored in music and theater. And then I ended up getting my MFA. No, I got my master's. I intended to get my MFA in acting at the University of Iowa. I changed departments. I ended up getting my master's of vocal performance and pedagogy from the University of Iowa. And then I moved to New York.
This is amazing.
Pretty epic. I didn't realize, like, it's only when I say it that I'm like, dang, that was a long span of time. And as you're living it, it didn't seem that long at the time. But then, just to see how convoluted the path was to get to where I am now, things I thought I was going to do, and they were decisions that I had made for myself, but just how the universe was like, no, this is where you should be.
Yes, sometimes the universe just kind of gives you that extra nudge, and they're like, have you thought about this? And you're like, thanks, universe.
Right. I thought I was all in control of everything, but clearly there's a higher plan for me. So let me just listen and follow. What do I got to lose? And when you do that, like, things just kind of open ways for you. And even if you find yourself in a situation, even if I would have been a social worker, I would have been a great social worker, but I do believe that there would have been some kind of alternate path off to the side that still would have led me around to where I ended up.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I feel like sometimes you're meant to do this one path, and you go on different alleys to find that, like I started as a sports reporter.
Whoa.
I thought that was a little like different than theater. And then to hear your story, it's so cool to see that you ended up here.
Yeah, that's very cool. Oh, wow. What did you cover? Like, just all of the, I'm so impressed.
Oh, thank you, my dear. No, I worked for Comcast Sportsnet, and then I was an on-air reporter for CBS 7, and I covered Friday Night Lights.
What? That's very cool. That's very cool.
It was pretty cool, but it led me to theater, which ended up being my true love and passion. And it's just, I love, the reason I always ask people's origin stories is because when you see someone performing, or you watch their YouTube videos, or you check them out on Instagram, you feel like, oh, I know them pretty well, or, oh, this is like their thing. And then you realize, oh my goodness, like they had a whole pre-Broadway life that it really gives like so much more depth.
Definitely. And all of that then informs the performance. Instagram is like the cream of the crop. It's like the choice moments in our lives. And even when you're taking a picture of yourself just weeping and snotty nose, like that's still just a moment in time. And everything that connects is just, no one gets to see, because you can't be just taking pictures of yourself every 30 seconds of what's going on with you. But then it makes it special in that the people that are in your inner circle, they get to see the things that are going on with you. And then the flash that's on Instagram, and they're like, oh yeah. I know, but I know what was really going on in the midst of all of those things. So it's pretty cool that, you have the public and you have the private. It's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Especially now during a pandemic, there's like, how much do you share, and how much do you try to like adapt to this situation, but you don't want to lose out on that part of like, especially for performers, like, yes, singing on camera is great and whatnot, but there's nothing like that feeling of a full theater and performing on a stage. And we'll get back there.
We're gonna get back. It may take time, but like, anytime we have a major crisis, then the arts comes forward and really thrives, because we all need that healing. It's very cathartic for us. And then just to see, I know when we are back, and even with the performances that have happened, like at Weather Vane, how just like overwhelming it was to either be on stage or to be in the audience. And even though it's like a happy, oh yeah, we're doing a happy show, but everybody was probably bawling in the audience to be like, we're back. I've missed this so much. So I'm very excited for when things are back to normal, whatever the new normal is.
Yes, that, can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And to share with everyone where the two of us met was your fabulous performance in Avenue Q. That was so much fun. I covered the closing performance and it was just like emotional and love. What was that like for you?
It was so unexpected. Like, we knew that it was going to be emotional. I wasn't expecting to get as emotional as I did because I hadn't been there as long as everybody else had. But when I made my first entrance and the spotlight came on and the audience went bananas, and I could probably well up again right now. Also, mascara is getting into my eyes, so there's that. But just to hear the adoration, which, I don't want to sound vain, but that is also a part of what we do. We work so hard. And in that moment, it was just, it seemed like that audience applause was for the career that I had up until that point. And it wasn't. It was just for, this is the last show. Everybody is excited. Whatever, window opens. Ah! This happens. Ah! Like, it was going to be there. But it just, in that moment, like, I just saw flashes of my career just coming at me, and I burst into tears. And it was like weird tears. It just felt like, in any kind of cartoon where they're just like popping out of the eyes on the side. That's how I felt, like these big just pearls were just falling out of my eyes. And now I have to sing. And I'm all lumpy throat, and I'm just like, I'm Gary Coleman. And I'm like, pull it together, girl. Like, you have an entire show to get through. You can't be such a mess already. And I'm crying on people. And now these people are crying, and we still have another song to go. Like, it's, but what a rewarding moment. Like, that for me had nothing to do with the past. Oh gosh. Okay, so I started performing when I was 14. So back in 1706. Up until now, like, it's a lot of time. It's a lifetime for some people, unfortunately. And I definitely could have had a couple of kids and all of that. So just to have that moment, if it never happens again, knock on wood, I hope it does. But if it never happens again, just like how triumphant that moment was for me for, a final show.
Yeah, that I do like the idea though that everyone was applauding for your whole career because it's true. People get really into following people's careers and
Yeah.
to be at a special moment like a first or a final performance of anything, like as a fan, as a reporter, I always try to get to those special moments because there's something in the room that day. There's like that special sauce, and I'll never forget you coming out and just like seeing, like I wasn't like front row, but I could see the little like, the emotion coming out, and you're like,
yeah,
you got this.
I got this. Stop it. Snap out of it.
I never know how y'all do it though. Truly, like at a normal performance, it's already emotional enough, but like the final time that you're like looking at your castmates, and then you see people off stage, and then you see everyone in the audience, and the whole Avenue Q legacy was in the audience that day. Like, how do you get that lump in your throat out so that you could actually just sing and perform?
Yeah, well, that was the reason why I went to school, was because I wanted the tools to be able to compete, first of all, because I felt like I'm coming from Kansas City. There's not a lot of, there is great theater that happens there, but as far as like the training that you get, I felt like it wasn't going to be enough, unfortunately, but also I didn't really look into what was there to get me to the level of New York actors. And so, studying opera, it's just a lot of breathing. Just breathe, and just try to relax and swallow, just to get everything to relax. And I mean, it's amazing how much we talk to ourselves as we're performing. Like, sometimes you have to be your own champion in your own cheer section, because whatever it is that you're doing, especially when you're doing film and television, you may not have that immediate response. So, just saying, you got this. Everything is going to be fine. You love all these people, and these people love you, and you're going to get through this, and it's going to be fantastic. And you have a job to do. So, pull it together, woman. Do your job, honey.
That's a great life lesson too, right? We all get so stressed out and you just have to take a second and be like, this is my job. The people
Yeah.
around me want me to succeed, so let's just do it together.
Correct, correct. And and we forget that sometimes, you know. Um, Nobody is, I mean, yes, obviously there are people who are against you, but in these moments where everyone has come together because they want to be there, everybody is for you. Everybody is cheering for you. And if you have a hiccup, it is what it is. We're human beings. And it's gonna happen. And it's live theater, and that's what the people are there to see. They want to see that. And then your job, your skill then becomes the recovery or just glossing over it like it never even happened. And then you can talk about it off stage.
Yes. Exactly. And I want to give a shout out to your awesome orange eyeshadow. You are rocking that.
Thank you.
And of course, I had to throw on this quick change of an orange shirt because sometimes it's just fun to rock the Avenue Q orange.
Exactly. We bonded over our orange dresses. That was pretty dope.
We sure did. That was so cute. We looked adorable.
We sure did.
And a shout out to everyone watching. I see 2 comments here from Relax. I've had coffee. I love that screen name. Whoever you are, that is exactly how I feel. And Eva, hello, my friend. Eva's one of the Showtreons, which is the B-Way Show Patreon squad. So Thank you, my dear. And if y'all have any questions, just drop them in the comment section and we will get to them throughout the show. So beyond Avenue Q, because I wanted to kind of like start there because that's where we met, but your resume is just on stage, on screen, so much. But let's start with the stage. So talk about Disaster.
Mm-hmm. Disaster with an exclamation point. The musical. Gosh, that was a labor of love that I had been a part of for about 6 years prior to it coming to Broadway. I was doing a musical at Gay Fest they moved to New York in 2006. So maybe about 2007, I don't know. Everything just kind of runs together. Anyway, Google Gay Fest and whatever pops up, that's probably, and this one girl story, then you can kind of track a little bit better. I'm terrible at names and I'm terrible at dates. Teplitsky had come to see the show, and I'm standing there talking to one of our producers, and he just does a drive-by, brava, and keeps on going. And I was like, oh, okay. And the guy who I was standing there with, he goes, do you know who that was? And I was like, no, it kind of happened so fast that I just kind of got peripheral and brown hair, and then he was gone. And he was like, that's Seth Rudetsky. And I was like, oh, that's Seth Rudetsky. Like, I've never seen him in person. I had only really heard his voice at that time. And he was like, honey, that's a huge compliment. And so he tracked me down. I was actually at home sitting with my mom. We were watching a Law and Order marathon. And he called me. And I'm like, how do you get my phone number? Man. And he asked me what I was doing. I had been home for about a week and a half, which was enough time to be at home with 2 adult women in one house. And he asked me if I was available to do a reading of Disaster. And so I was like, well, I'm in Kansas City. I was very poor at the time. I said, I don't, like, I'm scheduled to be home for another 3-4 days. I can't necessarily afford to fly back. He was like, okay. And he says, well, do you have a place to stay when you get here? I was like, yeah, I have a home there in New York. So he hangs up the phone and I'm sitting there talking to my mom. Phone rings again. He was like, okay, so we'll buy you a ticket. We'll fly you back to New York. Would you then still be able to do the reading? And I was like, absolutely. I hang up the phone. I turn to my mother. My mother's just looking at me like, you really just gonna leave? And I said, well, this is an opportunity for me to work with some, just take my career to the next level. And she said, do you really think that this would help your career? And I said, yeah, I do. And then we go back to watching Law and Order. And then who pops up on the screen? Seth Rudetsky is in this episode. And I was like, oh, mommy, like, there he is. That's who I'm flying back home to work with. And it just kind of validated the situation to her, because on the surface, she was hearing that some strange man then called my phone that I didn't give my phone number to and is asking me to fly back home and work with him. So thankfully, it all kind of worked out that, I tell you, the universe got my back, when I need it. It was like, oh, yeah, so I'll just make this happen, a little universe of magic, and I'll put Teplitsky on your TV to kind of allay your mother's concern.
I was just thinking that whole universe is coming back story, because it's true. What are the odds that you would be watching that show and that episode would come on, and it's like those moments from the universe when they're like, you're on the right path, you got to do this. It's hard to ignore that.
Correct. I mean, thank God the signs are pretty clear. I mean, I'm sure that they were a little bit more muted and I just kept missing them. And so I have to be beat over the head about it. But I appreciate that, because then there's no room for doubt then.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said. So what was that process like once you were on Broadway? And I mean, just that cast is so much fun. And from all the videos, like the clips that you can see online, it just looks like a good time musical.
It is such a good time. I mean, from start to finish, even when you're upstairs in the dressing room getting ready and you hear the hot stuff is happening, and what's happening on stage, like it's infectious. You can't, I was chomping at the bit to get there, to be a part of it. Like, tag, now it's my turn, now I can play. And it was a lot of hard work. I mean, there were so many tweaks that happened during previews, and because things happen, a little spread out and few and far in between, you forget how hard that process is. And I've always loved being a part of new work and just developing and going back and forth with the creative team and having those conversations that help you inform your character. It's just thrilling for me. And so it was, I hated to see it end when it did, but I'd much rather go out on a high than to look out and see 4 people there clapping and having a good time. So, things end when they do, and it's still very much alive, because now so many theaters across America are doing the show, and we try to get there as often as we can. Seth and I drove up, over, down, I don't remember where we went, to a high school performance of it at a Catholic school, and just to see like how creative they were with the sets. And that's what I loved about it. It's just, we had a lot more money when we went to Broadway, so we were able to do some things, but then also like the ridiculous rats on a blanket, like that's the charm of this show.
I love when a show can translate so well, either on Broadway or touring or at a regional, like that. If you have more money, you can do this, but you don't need the money for it to really have that same effect.
Correct. We had a blast when we did it at the Triad. We had a blast, me speaking for my, the times that I was involved, and even at the Box downtown, like even that was a hoot, because we were on this tiny itty bitty stage. There was like 75 of us packed like sardines trying to do tap numbers, and then cardboard cutouts of things that are falling, and our poor slot machine was just flat, and just, I think, and it happened in such a short amount of time that it was just, the adrenaline was pumping, and we just got through it, and whatever failed, but we're going to keep on going, because, it's based on those disaster movies of the 60s and 70s. And you can see strings, and you can tell that, yes, this explosion happened, but it was really a diorama. So you can see how terrible the moss looks, and it's supposed to be a forest. And then, you're back to where the humans are. And so it's just a nice time to just suspend your disbelief and just go on a journey. Just come with us. Because, and especially like, I think a lot of theaters will be doing this show after the pandemic, because we just need the fun. We need the journey. We need some silliness in our lives, because everything has been so serious as of late.
Yes, there's a time and place for a serious play or musical. And right now, and especially once we do have live theater really circulating so much more, I want to laugh. I want to cry those happy tears of joy and the belly laughs. And I agree with you. That is going to be a good time. And I hope I get to see a production of that in person for sure.
Yeah, I want to see it again too.
That also really speaks to it that you could be in a show. I've heard from different actors that they have different feelings of it, that like if you're in a show, sometimes once you leave it, you're like, that was a great moment in my life. And I'm going to like kind of keep that in the box from this time. But also for you and Seth to be touring with like, and seeing these other productions and that it still holds this nice place. Does that speak to the show itself?
I definitely do. I think it does. And I think that it also speaks to the people that you're doing the show with. Even if the show is fun and you're having a good time, if you can't stand the people that you're doing the show with, then there's a block there. And so that block doesn't serve the show, and it doesn't serve, there are several people that I still talk to this day. And I love that about the business. And you can leave all the drama off to the side, but at the end of the day, like being able to make these connections with people that you've made art with, that you've touched people's lives with, that's a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean Broadway and theater in general. I know we say Broadway, but it really is theater, because regional, off Broadway tours, all of that. I mean, there are people who are in small cities and they get a tour, and that can change someone's life.
Yeah, I was at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Mizzou, and a production of Rent came through. And I remember sitting there and just being like, this is magic. I am imagining all these people in these isolated pockets in the city, even though it's just scaffolding on stage. And then when it was over, I bumped into them. Like in the loading dock. I don't know why I ended up over there, because I wasn't with anyone. I really should have been just exiting and going back to my dorms. So thanks, universe. And we sat there chatting. I kind of think I remember who one of the guys was that I have now since met in life. We were represented by the same agent at that time. And I did think I got to tell him thank you, because that just affirmed to me that this is what I wanted to do. And I think we ended up at either the Heidelberg or like Shakespeare Pizza afterwards. So it was really nice to get to see, like, these are the people, they're doing it. They are doing it. And I appreciate that was a stop on their path, because in Columbia, Missouri, there's no need for them to come there, to be honest. But I'm glad that it was a stop on their tour.
Yeah, when I was reporting in West Texas and we had a few tours come through us, it was like, oh my goodness, this is healing the soul. And the people there in Midland were so excited to have this production come through. We saw Rent, there was The Sound of Music, and a show that I think I saw on your resume, Buddy Holly.
Yeah, yes, that was another show that I had a blast with. I'm still in touch with a few of those people because they're gamers, and so I get to see what games they're playing. I stalk them a little bit. Hi, Ryan. My feet hurt so bad, but because I love doing the show with such fine musicians and talented singers, I pushed through that pain, because to see the people in the audience just get out in the aisles and just start dancing to this music, everybody was like, whoa. And it was my first time doing that show, but the majority of the cast had done it before. And they said, there have been times where people have just been in such a frenzy, they're a little bit older, that they have dropped dead in the aisles. And I was like, okay, I don't want to ever see that, but what a way to go. Like, just to be, however far back it takes you in your nostalgia, because most of them have probably been at a lot of his concerts, and to just be that heightened that you just ascend. And it sucks for your loved ones. I'm not wishing death on anybody, but just to know that you could affect someone so much.
Yeah,
that they teleport themselves to a different time.
It would be a strong way to go. Like, you don't wish that on anyone and you don't want it to happen. But like, what a last moment. That is like a true last moment of joy. And yeah, that's I've never heard that before. But I'm kind of thinking like, that's if it's your time to go and you've had a good, strong life. It's a nice thought. Anyway.
On to something a little bit happier and not so morbid.
But It is funny because when I saw the show, like people were getting up, and especially this, I saw it in West Texas, which had that
Mhm.
extra element of like the local pride. And
Yeah.
it's just, there's something so fun about seeing the elderly get up and dance and just have this
Mhm.
like pride in their heart that they don't care who's watching, and they like pick up their grandchildren and they're like, come
Yeah.
dance with me.
It's beautiful because there was a time where I was thinking about doing music therapy because there, especially for Alzheimer's patients,
Yeah.
music is something that really can be transcendental to them. It just gets the brain firing in a way that it isn't on a regular basis. And I was like, oh gosh, I would love to be a part of that journey of the recognition and the familiarity of music and how powerful that was. So,
Mm.
but again, I ended up where I ended up.
But you do know that you are helping with the music by being a performer.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I was surprised that sometimes, especially during Broadway Cares, when we would be out in the lobbies trying to collect donations for Broadway's Cares and the Actors Fund, that there would be people after Book of Mormon who would be crying, and I'd be sitting there like, "You just came to see a comedy. Like, why are you crying?" But when you think about the show and you think about the journey that these people have just been on, and to go from a very low point to a very high point where you're grounded in who you are, then you can understand, oh yeah, wow, that really touched deep for that person to be crying after a show. Or maybe, they had just gotten proposed to. I don't know. But what I saw was that they were crying after, a strong performance by the first national tour of Book of Mormon.
I believe.
I like that song. I might
It's
sing that at a cabaret once. I'll put
if
that on the
you
list.
do, I need to hear this. What was doing that show like? Because I mean, it will make you laugh, it'll make you question some things, it'll make
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
there are a lot of feelings of it, but what's it like to like be a part of that show?
Well, it's crazy. I was doing Buddy Holly at the time. We were heading to Chicago, wherever we were. I think we were probably coming down from Canada. We had a layover in Salt Lake, which is when my agent called me and said, "Hey, you're being considered to be a replacement for the first national tour." And I was like, "Oh, okay. How is this happening?" And he was like, "Well, they're going to look at your videos. And it's between you and 5 other girls." I was like, "Okay, great, great." And so we're just kind of talking logistics or whatever. And he was like, "Where are you?" I was like, "I'm in Salt Lake." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Mm-hmm." He's like, "Okay, kiddo. Well, it's whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be." So we move on, we travel, get to Chicago, getting settled in my hotel room, and Book of Mormon was sitting down in Chicago at the time. A friend of mine who I had met at Barter Theater was in the show, so I was already going to go see it. Another friend of mine was in the show that I had met on the audition circuit. So I was really looking forward to seeing them when I got the call to let me know that I was going to be one of the newest members of the first national tour. And my agent goes, "So where are you?" And I was like, "I'm in Chicago." And I already had plans to go and see the show. And he was like, "Okay, so don't buy a ticket. Let me talk to them and see if they can get you into the show so you can see it, because you need to know what you're getting yourself into." Because I had never seen the show beforehand. Ugh. So I also was able to get measurements done. I had breakfast with my friend, saw the show, clutched my pearls a few times at what was going to happen, but also tracked my character to see that everything that she did, I was okay with. But for me, I ended up doing Book of Mormon for 2.5 years on the road. And it really came at a time in my life where I was searching. My mother had passed away in 2011. And I had already had conversations with my higher power about how much of an impact this was going to be on me. And just in my prayers, I let him know, like, this is going to affect me so deeply that I don't know if I'm going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you for a while. I'm just letting you know this because I'm going to need to process all of this, but I'll be back because this is what I know. And this is what I found that works for me. But you're going to be on punishment for a moment. And these are conversations that we never have and that I never had in my church experience of being angry with the situation.
Yeah.
And when I look at doing Book of Mormon, especially that first night that I went on, I got to the end of the show. And again, just snot and tears and our, oh gosh, can I use the language? Am I allowed to cuss?
Go for it.
Okay, so our general butt fucking naked was like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And I was just like, "I'm so happy." And he was just like, "Okay, girl, calm down." But because like I had gone on this journey in these 2.5 hours, 3 hours of the show of having lost everything in my life. I had lost my mother, and going to the end where it's just utter jubilation that you found something that has given you that joy. Whether you think it's that, if things actually did happen, like if a guy did beat up a whole army of folks with a jawbone of a mule, whether you believe those things really happened or not, at the end of the day, it's the core values and it's the conversations that you can have that oh gosh, I need some more, drink some more water, that elevate your spirit so that it vibrates in a way that's positive. That's all that anybody ever wants. And so, it was very cathartic to me to get to do that show every day, to live that journey that I was actually living in my life. So I think it kind of brought me around sooner. Mm-hmm. I took God off of punishment a lot sooner doing that show than I maybe would have if I was just out here broke and alone, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's that universe again with the Salt Lake, City.
Oh, that's another good song. So many good songs.
It really is. It's funny. My boyfriend, John, I'm actually at his place right now, our dog Slim here. And we quote that all the time, like, you and me, but mostly me.
Because I know a lot of people who are like that. God bless their souls. I love them, but dang, y'all selfish.
It is like, there are just so many bops from that musical that, like I said, and you said, there are certain ones that you can sing along to, and there are certain ones you can't. But anytime I hear a friend who's like, "Oh, I'm from Orlando," I go, Orlando. So good.
I love that happens. There are certain words that are phrases that if I hear them, like if I hear someone say, "Oh, make sure that you exit through the watertight doors," I always hear Faith Prince go, "Watertight doors!" Like it always just translates. It echoes that way through those voices of people who have said, and that's not even an iconic line of hers from Disaster, but it's just that it really resonates with me in weird ways.
That's the beauty of theater, that like certain words and phrases connect with different people.
Yes.
It
tickles me. So it's a nice way to, get a laugh in throughout the day over stupid stuff.
That's what life's all about, isn't it?
I love it.
So what's it like performing off Broadway or on Broadway or in a regional theater where you're in one place versus when you're going on a tour and you're playing for different cities almost every day sometimes?
It's nice. It's nice for different reasons. Like at the time when I was doing tour, we had really nice sit downs. So we were in some places for at least 2 weeks. We were in San Francisco for 3 months. So the nice part about it is where we were staying was much better accommodations of where I was coming from. So it was nice to like take long baths and sometimes have rooms that have balconies and sit out on the balcony and watch cable and, get delicious food. And then the flip side of performing here in the city is that you get to go home. You get to go home to your surroundings. You get to go back to your neighborhoods where oh, I can go over here and I can grab this, and I can come over here and I can grab this, and I can cook for myself. And then I can go out and I can hang out with my friends. So that's the nice thing. But also I love the adventure of being on tour, because when you're in a town where they've got wonderful tourist attractions, or you've got people that there, then it gives you a chance to kind of connect and see what each town is about. And I really like that.
Awesome. Yeah, it is the best of both worlds that you get to have those two experiences.
Yeah, and I would definitely go on tour again. I'd do it again.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So to round out the theater portion, and then I definitely want to talk about some of this screen time. Scotland, PA, what was that like?
It was a lot of fun. It was a break for me because it was the second time around. Like, I just was kind of rotating and orbiting this show. So it was nice to come on and, like, bam, drop a one-liner and leave the stage, or come back on and, help support someone in their solo song and leave the stage, and then come back on a couple of pages later and drop another one-liner and leave the stage. So I got a lot of rest. So I'm getting old, child. I can't be doing all these big old dance numbers like I used to. So it was really refreshing to just, earn your laughs, help tell the story, but to get some time to just, have your smoke breaks in between.
Yeah. That sounds good. Yeah, a change of pace.
Correct.
So tell me about second act and how you got involved with it and what it was like to be on set, and it just what a film.
It was okay. First of all, show up on time, y'all. Please show up on time. I was late to my appointment, and I was very nervous about this because I had taken the wrong train. I very rarely go to Queens. The audition was at Silver Cup Studios, and I had been there before when I shot for 30 Rock, but I had taken a car to get out there. So this time I was like, oh, I've got plenty of time. I'll take the train. I don't know where I got off of the train, but it was not where I needed to be. So I was waiting for an Uber to come. It was evening traffic. Didn't realize that I was actually catty corner to where I needed to be. So I went over here to this hotel to wait for an Uber to come, and then wait in traffic to then just take me directly underneath the elevated train. That's neither here nor there. I was prepared. Always be prepared. But when I got upstairs, and the security guard there, I love him so much. I was like, okay, so I'm here for second act. I got an audition, and I'm very late, and I need to get upstairs. And he was like, okay, all right, okay. We need to sign in right. No, you don't understand. I'm very late. Calm down. Everything is going to be fine. Sign in right here. And he was just so grounded and so calm. And he got up and he walked over and he pushed the button to the elevator. Come on over. And I'm just like, okay. Ooh. And he's like, calm down. Everything is going to be fine. So I get upstairs, and I'm so late that there's no more chairs in the hallway. So I was just like, oh, so much for this job. And I sign in and I peek around the corner and I get and I was like, oh my God. But also pull it together. Like, this is what you do. You are excited about these pages that you're about to read for them. So everything is going to be, the man has told you 17 times already, everything is going to be fine. So I get in there, and we had to prepare. There's a scene in the movie where we do Push It. So we had to prepare a little dance number. And I was very excited, but also very nervous because I am not a choreographer and I have 2 left feet. And they informed me that we wouldn't be doing that. And I was like, I was kind of rejoicing, but also like showing on the outside, oh, darn, I really wanted to do that. And so I read through the scenes, and then that was that. So I eventually make it home because I live in the Bronx, and it's a long way between the Bronx and Queens, even though there's a shorter way to go. None of the public transportation goes that way.
Nope. I had rehearsal. So.
Oh, well, I will visit you in Midtown.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not going to Queens if I don't have to. It's so far. But I had rehearsal the next day. So I had a break in between rehearsal to go to another audition, because that's what you do when you're trying to, get them health insurance weeks. You're always auditioning. I was leaving the audition to go jump down and I was leaving rehearsal to run down to do an audition to come back to rehearsal and finish out the day at rehearsal. And I'm on the 50th Street stop of the C train, the blue line, and my agent calls me. And I'm looking at my phone like, I get service down here? Oh, that's good to know. And then I get on the phone with him and he was like, so how does it feel knowing that your first feature film is going to be with J-Lo? And I was like, what? And he said it again. And I was just like, whoa. And it happened so fast because we were going to start shooting that next week. And I was not expecting to hear the next day that I had gotten it. And towards the end of the conversation, I was like, can you just say that one more time? And he was like, how does it feel to know that your first feature film is going to be with Jennifer Lopez? And it was just a whirlwind of a couple of months like that happened afterwards.
Wow. That sounds like such a booked and blessed story.
Yes, definitely. I definitely use that hashtag often because it's always such a surprise for me whenever something actually is given to me. I'm like, oh, really? So fantastic. That's great. I never, ever expect to book anything. So maybe I should reconsider my mindset, but it works. It works. It's been working for me, so why change it?
But you also work very hard for it and you earn it. And that must feel really good that, you've put in a lot of time and the energy and the effort, and you've been putting that into the universe. And it's really like shown back for you throughout the years that like, this is where you're meant to be.
I do believe that. And it's, I could well up right now just thinking about my mascara is dry now. So I can't use the excuse that it's my mascara. But there's a song, when I look back over my life, oh my goodness, just to look back and see, this was a sucky time. This happened and this was amazing. I could have died this time. I almost broke my neck this time, but to see like how all these things that you've come through and where you are today, which when you were little and you were watching Esther Williams synchronized swimming movie musicals on Nickelodeon and rolling around on the brown shag carpet that you had no idea was going to be a part of your world when you got to, 96.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy to think. I'm now thinking also to the fact that you were watching SVU and Seth Rudetsky came on, but then didn't you have a chance to get on that show?
I did. That was my first TV gig. And I remember coming down the hallway from a fitting and Mariska Hargitay was getting, final touch-ups. And I was just like, wow, she's so tall. I'm only 5'4". And I don't know, she might be like 5'8", 5'11". I don't know. I'm tiny. So everyone's 6 feet as far as I'm concerned. But to see her in the hallway and just to see like her in the flesh, just very cool. And to be on set with everyone who was just so supportive and so kind and actually took time, like when we were on breaks, to chat with me and to get to know me. That made me feel very good and very much a part of something that a lot of New York actors get to be a part of. And if they haven't so far, they will in a couple of months because this show is going to be on in some iteration until the end of time.
It is such a fun, like, find that theater actor in SVU.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I love watching like everything that's on syndication. I watch during the day. But like when you go back to the early beginnings of Law and Order proper, like just Law and Order, period, how many actors came through that show that were just babies at that time. And everybody looks just so cute and so charming and so young. And then you think about the career that they've had from that moment. But then you also wonder, like, where were they before that? Like Law and Order may not necessarily have been their first moment, but that's your first time seeing them. And you're like, oh my God, I watched this episode and didn't realize who that was until I've had some life on me to now be able to look back and say, oh my God, that's an actor that I definitely admire because he's so high. And here he is, a little baby with some sunglasses on, trying to be all thugging, but he's really a nice boy. So it's not really working, but whatever. I'll suspend my disbelief for that moment.
I do love watching like older films or TV shows and being like, oh my God, I had no idea that this person was in it. And just
Right.
the joy of like seeing someone like thrive throughout their career and like there's the starting point. That's such a fun like gem and a nice little moment, especially now during quarantine. Any moments of joy like that, I will take them.
Exactly. And I appreciate like just all the new content that's happening, like Quibi and Peacock and like 10-minute shows. Like no one was really thinking about that short of a format before. And so now that we are home and we're thirsty for just something to keep our brains active, so many cool things are coming out of that. So it's nice to see. Yeah, and even just like watching commercials. You've had so many commercials that have been on TV and have been on for a while. And now you see face masks are being incorporated into commercials. And it's just like, wow, that happened really fast. These people are on it, but that's their job. They're always like looking and scanning and having focus groups and trying, just being on the forefront of everything. That it's very cool to see those things enter our entertainment life.
That is such a good point. Whenever I see things that are like, wow, you clearly shot this within the last few months, like, well done. And especially, you know, we're seeing more and more now with like SNL and other things where everyone, you know that they've been tested multiple times, and that's what we are getting used to. But also, you know, I always like to just say, like, please wear your mask and please be safe.
Yeah.
This is it's a tough time for everyone, and especially for actors whose main jobs have to be in person. Like this is I love the creativity that people are coming up with right now, but also we need to like actively do this for everyone so that everyone can get back to work.
Yeah. Because I was just musing over how could we get back to work faster? And you know, those big plexiglass things, the dividers that are coming between like what they use at the vice presidential debates and what you see at the grocery store, what you see at the nail salon. And I was like, do you think they could build one big enough? But then like, I don't really want to, but if that's what it needs to be, like doing a show in a bubble like that, if push comes to shove, might be a way that we can get back to it faster. But then it's just like, it just kind of takes that. There's a difference between knowing that you can reach out and just touch the person. There's a connection there. But I think that we could eventually get past that because we just want to be in the room together. And however that's going to keep us safe, then those are the things that need to happen. So big old plexiglass dividers at the edge of the stage between us and the audience. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out just like everybody else is.
I love that though. I mean, it can certainly, that could happen. And then once things get better, you can just remove it.
Yeah, just take it down. Just don't make it fall onto people. Like as long as that doesn't happen, just keep us safe, but keep us protected.
It's just making me think of Joe Iconis likes to call the first few seats the splash zone.
Oh yeah. So maybe we don't want that because then everything is just gonna hit that plexiglass and that's gonna be really nasty.
By the end of the show, it's just gonna be like
between the sweat and the spit, that's no. Never mind. Scrap that idea.
But I love the idea. Hey, like I said, we just got to keep coming up with creative ideas and something's going to happen and it'll be good. It'll be good. So with the last few minutes, I always like to just ask, are there any nonprofits or charities that you'd like to give a shout out to today?
Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. I mean, that's the one that always pops into my head because of, collecting over the years for them and just getting to know their staff and know how that money gets disseminated out to charities all over the world. I can't remember my curtain speech. I always feel like I'm relearning it every time I volunteer to do it, which is good because then that keeps it fresh and I don't feel like I'm just going through the motions because it is something that means a lot to me. And especially with the Actors Fund right now, they are, I'm sure they're approaching being tapped out. And with all of us out of work and no relief in sight, for those of us who are not getting, well, I am blessed to be on the side of getting residuals, but if you're not getting residuals during this time of everyone binge watching TV and streaming, you're looking at your account like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And when everyone is out of work, there are no extra jobs. There are no survival jobs for us to go get because everybody is in the same position. So the Broadway Cares is really doing and making concerted efforts to create content that people can stream, and then that way they can donate from around the world to help us out right now.
So well said. Yes to all of that, everyone. Please go check that out. And a show that I'm about to start watching, I saw that you were on it. I'm very excited. Gotham.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was very hot in that room, but it was a lot of fun. And it was nice to be, kind of powerful and sexy. So I hope you enjoy that.
I'm very excited. I'm a comic book nerd, and I've been kind of making my way through all of the different superhero TV shows throughout this quarantine.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of residuals and everything, where can people find you on social media, and what should they be kind of keeping an eye out for where they can, be watching you?
So you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at just_Lacretta, Lacretta. You can watch Second Act on Showtime. And then everything else that I've done, you can watch on your streaming services.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And any final words that you'd like to say to your fans or to young actors who might be watching this and who have seen your body of work and just think like, how can I follow in your footsteps?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you and that I appreciate you. My mother always said, you never know who's watching you. And I am as authentic as I possibly can be, and sometimes that gets me into trouble. But I don't know how to be anybody else. I'm surprised that I'm not a Gemini, and that I was thinking the other night that I always wanted to be a twin, but with the things that I like video games and makeup, like I feel like I am a twin just fused into one body. But I would just say, never give up. Please persist. I had spoke with a class of students of a friend that I went to high school with, who is now a professor in Illinois, and just telling them, one young lady asked, what's your ratio? What's your audition to booking ratio? And I was like, girl, it's not good. It's like a point something. But, just because you hear no 75 times doesn't mean that there's a one time that's going to come where you're going to hear a yes. And so basically that's what you're holding out for. And it's amazing, like what kind of rhythm that you get into when you hear no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden, like it just pops. I don't want to come off as being braggadocious, but I'm saying, I hear no a lot, but when I book big. And I need that because I hear no a lot. So I need to have the amount of coins to be in savings so that I can afford to feed myself and pay my rent. And so it just takes preparedness, persistence, and let's see, another P, because I like alliteration. Preparedness, persistence, and positivity. Because being the kind of people that people want to work with is going to take you so far. It's important to be prepared, but you don't want to be so far into that book that you can't connect with somebody when they're just, just trying to ask you how you're doing. So hang in there. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Maybe someday. It's going to happen. But you just have to stay. You have to hang in there. And I understand, like I've had some friends who have had to leave But I always say, if you can, just come back. Just come back.
I feel like I needed to hear that, and that was so good. So thank you.
Of course, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks everyone for watching. This has been so amazing. It's crazy when the hour just flies right by. And I appreciate you. And quick note for everyone, y'all can find me at B-Way Show. That's BWAYSHO. And a new episode of B-Way Show, the podcast with L. Morgan Lee, just dropped, so you can check that out. And on that note, thank you so, so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all. We'll see you at the show.